one, I wasn't super sure about, because I feel like firms sell fewer shares of new stock is right, but I don't know if it's because of rising stock prices, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think rising stock prices would affect the firms. It affects the people who hold the stocks.
Yeah.
It's like their stock becomes more valuable. So that means like there's a bigger return on the investment is what I'm thinking. And so there's a higher demand to invest. So people invest more than consumption spending.
So you think he would decrease his consumption spending then?
Yeah, I think it's Jim. Hold on, someone's at my door.
Then I have a nice prince out.
Yes. Let me grab food. I'm in the middle of some eating though.
Oh, where's the baby?
He's moving out.
Put the baby. What are you in the middle of? A what? Oh, good.
Thanks.
Thank you for the ice cream.
Yeah. Okay, so I do think it's the first one, but we can look into it a little bit more.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay. For the second one, I got the last one. So, when at the beginning of the chapter, it says that household wealth, the wealth effect is the least of, what does it say? Of the least importance, just because money holdings are a small part of household wealth.
Okay, perfect. Number 3, I got liquidity trap.
You know, I searched all of those phrases in the textbook, and I couldn't come up with any of them. It was so weird.
Yeah, I had to Google that one because I couldn't find it either.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. If the Federal Reserve increases the money supply, then initially people want to sell.
So this one was a little weird, but I was reading in the textbook, and I'm like 90% sure that it's the last one.
Buy bonds?
Yeah, I didn't really understand it, but I was pull the text back up.
I think if the Federal Reserve increases the money supply, that means they're selling bonds, right? Yeah. Wait. Oh boy. Now I have to rethink it. If the Federal Reserve increases the money supply, then people want to buy bonds.
Yeah, so initially they have more money, so they're buying more bonds, and then
investing more.
Yeah, and then what was it? The
interest rate falls, right?
Yeah, I think. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because then if there's more people investing, then interest rates fall. So man, yeah. There's just like, I feel like at the beginning of the semester, keeping all this straight was like super easy, but now I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah. And it's also like situational. It's like if this happens and this happens and this happens. So it's just hard.
So
all right.
Yep.
Number 5, if the Fed conducts open market purchases, the money supply increases and aggregate demand shifts right.
That's what I got.
Awesome.
According to the liquidity preference theory, opportunity cost of holding money is the interest rate.
Yep. According to liquidity preference theory, an increase in the price level shifts the money demand curve rightward, so the interest rate increases.
Yeah, that explains the question we went over about buying
Yeah.
bonds.
I
Yeah,
didn't even think about that.
there we go. According to the liquidity preference theory, the money supply curve is downward sloping.
Yep.
I like easy questions like that.
And then for this graph, I got the first option, a decrease in the price level.
Which of the following could explain a shift in the money demand curve from M1 to M2? Can you explain this one to me?
Yeah, so the demand is decreasing, so if prices are lower, like people don't need as much money to buy things, so the demand decreases.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, nothing too crazy.
Which of the following sequences best explains the negative sloping of the aggregate demand curve? Price level increases. No, not the first one.
Yeah, I think it's the third one.
Let's see. Price level increases, demand for money. Oh, price level decreases, demand for money decreases. Equilibrium interest rate decreases. Quantity of goods and services demanded increases. Yes, I think it's the third one.
Sweet. Other things the same. As the price level rises, the interest rate rises, causing aggregate demand to shift.
Price level rises, interest rate rises. Yes. Okay. 12. Take the following information from as a given small imaginary economy. Oh boy, I don't remember looking at how to do this. Hold on. What is it wanting me to do?
Marginal propensity to consume.
I'm looking at it in the textbook.
I think it's just the marginal propensity to consume and the marginal propensity to save, and if you add them up, it equals 100%. But let me see if I. Bless you.
Do you know what section this is in the chapter?
No, let me pull it up again.
Oh, there it is, 21 2C. The fraction of extra income that a whole household consumes rather than saving.
So if you divide it out, the first one is 0.65 and the second one's 0.659.
Income. So it's 10,000 minus 6,500 divided by 10,000. That backwards. It's 6,500 divided by 10,000.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right, because it's consuming rather than saving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that should be 650.
Second one 659 though. So how is there like I don't know, how do you do that?
659. You know, it's probably just 6.
Even the third one's not like.
Yeah. 6, 5.
I'm just gonna Google it real fast. Calculate marginal. Oh, it's change in consumption divided by change in income. So it would be
7250 minus 65. 75. Oh, it's the second one.
oh, cool. That makes sense.
That's weird. That wasn't in the textbook. It's dumb. Right.
Okay, so as real GDP falls, I wasn't sure about this one, but I got money demand falls, so the interest rate falls.
Hold on. Let me look at the graph. I remember seeing a graph for this.
Okay.
Mm, 15. So as GDP falls, we want to know what happens to interest rates.
Does it fall?
Yes. Let me show you what I'm looking at. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, so this is in the review at the back. So it talks about how so if interest rates increase, then the quantity of output. Oh man, how does it explain it? So if the interest rate falls, it reduces the cost of borrowing for investment. No. Borrowing for investment. Interest rate falls. Shoot, I thought that was the I would answer it.
So if real GDP is falling, then people
Are producing less.
and if people are producing less, then they're also they'd have to be consuming less too, because they wouldn't be export or importing anything either to replace it.
So the demand would rise.
Fall because they're not consuming as much. And then if the demand falls, interest rate falls. That was my thought process. But Google it.
No, actually, I think as real GDP with this graph, it let me share it again. So as this is the quantity of real output is the GDP. As it decreases, then your demand is increasing. It's the opposite. So as output increases, aggregate demand is increasing. So if output is decreasing, then demand is increasing and the price level is rising, which means there's a...
No, so demand is increasing with output, but price level is decreasing.
So so this is decreasing, right?
What is?
In the question we have is it about? Yeah, so if GDP is falling, so if this graph we're moving to the left, so maybe from Y1 to Y2. Oh no, that is the demand. So that means the
problem with this is there's not, or
man, I hate graphs so much.
yeah. I think we would need like another curve. I don't know. Hold on. I was reading something else online.
Okay.
An increase in real GDP will cause an increase in interest rates.
Does it say if money demands rise or fall?
Let me see.
As GDP falls, money demand. It says money demand falls when I just Google it.
As GDP falls?
And the interest rate falls. So you were right all along. So money demand falls and the interest rate falls. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's what I got. I feel like it's right. I just don't know completely why.
I just don't know why, but and that's gonna hurt me on the test, but okay.
Yeah.
So if the MPC is 0.8 and there are no crowding out or accelerator effects, then the initial increase in aggregate demand is the initial increase
Of 100.
divided by, or I was just looking at this. Where'd my textbook go? Yep, there it is. It's 1 plus the MPC times the amount. So 1.8 times
120.
120, 216.
216?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. That's easy.
Sweet.
All right. The following facts apply to a small imaginary economy. In response to which of the following events could aggregate demand increase by 1,500? So I guess we need to get the MPC first.
Yeah.
So 500 over 320. No. Oh, other way around. 320 over 500.
Oh, yeah. I was like, dang, this doesn't make sense because it's like a 1.6.
So 0.64. Okay.
So it's 1.64 times x equals 1,500. So we're trying, so it would be 1,500 divided by 1.64, which gives us 914.6, which isn't an option. Of course it's not. So
Yeah, that'd be too easy.
yeah.
All right. A stock market boom stimulates consumer spending by 300. So that would change the MPC.
Oh.
Economic boom overseas. I don't think it's going to be the last two. So if we want to just test out the first two.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because it would need to be like a change, but
So it's looking like
oh, it talks about crowding out effects in these first two answers. I don't. So what is that? What's the crowding out effect?
that's good. That's probably something different. Yep. Crowding out effect is supposed to make it smaller, the increase less.
Oh,
So does that make sense?
yeah. Which of the following events could aggregate demand increase by?
So if there was no crowding out effect, then I think that's when it would be the 900 answer, 1.64, the 914. But I'm like, how do we choose between 300 and 500? Let me read it.
Was it? Did you see a formula for it?
There's like no formula. It's just the crowding out effect has just like a little section in the book.
Yeah, it has like that little graph.
Yeah. Jeez, man.
No. Do you want to skip this one and come back to it?
Yeah. Let me try.
I've got all these like answers written down, so we can jump back in, like the 914.6, 1.64, and all that.
Cool. Suppose the multiplier has a value that exceeds 1. There's no crowding out or investment accelerator effects. Which of the following would shift to the right by more than the increase?
Mm,
The first one, an increase in government expenditure. Oh, wait, it would be all of them. Investment spending. No.
no.
Just the first one, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I think that looks good. Suppose there was a large increase in net exports. If the Fed wanted to stabilize output, it could, if there's an increase in net exports.
So if we want to export less, we want to produce less, which means we want higher interest rates, which means we want to increase the money supply, right?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay. This is making me nervous. I don't like this one. Well, no, the first one can't be right, because if output is increasing, then unemployment is falling.
Yeah. Well, no, it's decreasing from point A to B.
Oh, I read that backwards. Yeah, I was just thinking, oh, the third one's probably right too. I don't get it. So the second and the third one are right, but not the first one. But you're right. If it goes from A to B, then unemployment is rising. So it's all of them.
Sweet. Which of the following policies would be advocated by proponents of stabilization policy when the economy is experiencing severe unemployment? What is stabilization policy?
That means they want government action to fix the economy.
But what tools do they use, like interest rates?
Increase government purchases. That means the government is getting involved in trying to fix them. Yeah.
Okay.
Opponents of active stabilization policy. I think it's the first one. Let me read the other ones. I think it's the first one. Don't believe, even in theory, that fiscal policy can stabilize the economy. So wait, maybe.
Okay, so now we just got that other question.
Number 15. In response, would increase by 1,500.
That formula that you had, do you still have that up?
Yeah, let me go back to it really fast. Hmm.
Do you find it?
Yeah, this is the formula for spending multiplier. Marginal propensity to consume.
1 plus MPC
Plus MPC squared? What?
What is that? Or it's just the second change in consumption. So 1 plus PC. So where did you get the aggregate demand part where it equals aggregate demand?
What's that?
Where did you get that it equals aggregate demand? Because you said like 1.64x equals 1500.
So it would be. So what we did last time is we didn't have these ones. We didn't have more than one change in consumption. So it was 1 plus whatever that was, the other problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then we times that by the, so that's where this comes in. You multiply it by the, let's see. You multiply it to find the change in aggregate demand. So you multiply it by the new spending. Oh, that one was up here. By the new spending of 20 billion. So the marginal propensity to consume is like, so of this lump sum, 75% is consumer spending. So if the spending is 200 billion and your consumer spending is 75%, then that changes it.
Okay, so
But I don't know what to do with the second
I think I
change. Go ahead.
figured it out. So we got 914 for the first part. So we're missing for the final 1500 like 600 or so.